Stop buying fertilizer and expensive feed when you can build a biological refinery in your own backyard. By positioning vertical rabbit hutches directly over vermicomposting bins, we've created a closed-loop engine that turns fibrous waste into high-protein yields and liquid gold. This is how you automate your Zone 3 production today. Step into a storage shed in June 2026, and you'll likely find a sight that is becoming increasingly painful to look at. Rows of synthetic fertilizer bags, prices up another 20% this season. It's a linear, exhausting road, hauling petroleum-based nutrients from the store to the soil, only to watch half of that investment wash away with the first heavy rain of the summer heat. But just a few yards away, in the corner of a quiet backyard, a different kind of economy is breathing. There are no plastic bags here, and there is no smell of industrial chemicals or waste. Instead, you see a rabbit, contentedly chewing on a handful of wild comfrey and garden weeds that most people would call trash. It looks simple, perhaps even primitive, to the untrained eye. Yet, this is the heartbeat of a biological refinery. It's an engine that turns low-value fibrous waste into high-velocity nitrogen fuel, working silently and efficiently while you sleep. While the world outside struggles with supply chain breaks and soaring energy costs, this corner of the garden is generating wealth. It is a closed-loop system where waste simply doesn't exist. We are moving away from being consumers of fertility and becoming the architects of it. But how do you take a single rabbit and turn it into a high-protein, self-sustaining nutrient engine? Most gardeners believe that the secret to a great harvest is simply adding more compost, more water, more labor. They treat the backyard like a hungry mouth that never stops demanding. But in the heat of a Florida afternoon, when the thermometer climbs past 90 degrees, a traditional approach to livestock and gardening starts to break down in very dangerous ways. If you've ever kept rabbits, you know the sound of the ammonia crisis. It's the invisible wall of smell that hits you before you even reach the cages, a sign of rapid urea catalysis in the heat. This isn't just about the unpleasant odor. It is a direct threat to the respiratory health of the animals. In this humidity, manure becomes a liability, attracting flies and breeding pathogens. Then there's the Zone 3 maintenance trap. We often place our production systems further from the house to save space, but that distance creates a heavy labor penalty we can no longer ignore. Compost piles that aren't turned daily in this environment become anaerobic, stinking messes. We have the nutrients, but we lack the mechanism to process them safely and automatically. The real problem isn't a lack of fertility in our soil or a lack of effort in our hands. It's the fact that our current homestead systems are designed as leaks rather than reservoirs. We are working against the biological clock of the manure, trying to manage it manually when we should be letting nature's own workforce do the heavy lifting for us at a foundational level. There is a hidden principle of synergy that solves the heat, the smell, and the distance all at once, a secret that turns a maintenance nightmare into a fountain of liquid gold. To understand why this system works, we have to look past the cages and into the chemistry. Rabbits are unique in the animal kingdom because they produce what we call cold manure. Unlike chicken or cow waste, which is so high in nitrogen it will physically burn the roots of your plants if used fresh, rabbit pellets are a slow-release, perfectly balanced fertilizer. They arrive at an NPK ratio of roughly 2.4, 1.4, and 0.6. This is the ultimate shortcut for anyone looking to build soil health without the weight of a traditional 6-month compost cycle. But the manure is only the fuel. The engine itself is a biological partnership. By introducing Eisenia fetida, commonly known as red wigglers, we create a living vermi-buffer. These worms act as the system's immune system. As the manure drops from the cage, the worms move in instantly, neutralizing ammonia before it can ever reach the air or the animal's lungs. Think of the earth beneath the hutches not as dirt, but as a vibrant underground city. The worms are the cleaners and the engineers, transforming raw waste into humic acid-rich castings. This process creates a phenomenon we call metabolic velocity. A rabbit can process garden waste into fuel in just 4 to 6 hours, a speed that keeps the energy flow moving constantly. Meanwhile, the worm population above which the rabbits live is doubling every 90 days. This is a compounding interest of biology, where one life form feeds the growth of the next. We aren't just raising animals for meat or keeping worms for fish bait. We are managing high-velocity energy flows across different species to create a self-regulating ecosystem. When you align these metabolic cycles, the smell disappears, the flies vanish, and the soil begins to transform. And remarkably, humans have been using this exact logic for centuries. Centuries ago, in the arid landscapes of Persia, towering structures known as pigeon towers rose like monuments. They weren't built for beauty, but for the precise harvesting of guano. The farmers knew that by concentrating life in vertical spaces, they could capture the gold falling from above to sustain their orchards in an otherwise unforgiving and dry environment. Halfway across the world, the Chinese developed the pond dike system, a masterpiece of vertical cascades where silkworm waste fed the fish, and fish waste fertilized the mulberry trees. In the 19th century, European cottage gardeners refined this further with the Victorian rabbitry, using stacking pits to automate the collection of fertility for their prized vegetables. These ancestors weren't running experiments. They were building the technology that allowed civilizations to flourish. They understood that verticality is the key to true efficiency. Today, as we face modern challenges of space and cost, we are simply reviving this ancient biological engineering. We are standing on the shoulders of farmers who didn't waste a drop. This isn't a new invention, it's a homecoming. It's the realization that we can build a system today that is just as resilient and productive as those that sustained our ancestors. To build this engine for yourself, we have to think in layers. The system is a 3-story biological factory, designed to work with gravity rather than against your own aching back. Layer 1 is the top. This is where the rabbits live, in east-west-oriented, wire-bottom hutches. This orientation ensures they catch the morning sun, but stay shaded during the peak heat. We position these hutches beneath the natural canopy of a deciduous mulberry tree. In the summer, the leaves provide cool, UV-protected shade. In the winter, the sun warms the core. The wire floor isn't just for ventilation, it's the interface. It allows every pellet of manure and every drop of moisture to fall directly into the second layer without human intervention. Layer 2 is the core of the engine, the active vermicompost bins. We follow a strict surface area requirement of 1 square foot of worm bed for every single rabbit in the system. This ensures the worms can keep up with the metabolic velocity of the rabbits. As the cold manure falls, it is met by thousands of red wigglers waiting in a bedding of shredded carbon. The magic happens here. The moisture from the rabbits keeps the worms hydrated, and the worms keep the manure from composting thermally, preventing that dangerous ammonia buildup. Beneath the worms sits layer 3, the base. This is a sloped catchment system designed to collect the leachate, or what we homesteaders call liquid gold, for immediate use in the garden. In the peak heat of June 2026, moisture management becomes the critical gear in the machine. We integrate 0.5 gallon per hour low-pressure misters to drop local temperatures significantly. We also bury unglazed terracotta olives deep within the worm core. These reservoirs slowly seep water into the bedding, creating a cool sanctuary where the worms can retreat if it gets too hot. This is synergy in action. The water that cools the rabbits eventually hydrates the worms, and that same water carries the concentrated nutrients down into your waiting collection jars. The result of this vertical stack is a system that produces high-protein meat, premium garden soil, and liquid fertilizer simultaneously, all within a tiny 6-square-foot footprint. Imagine standing in your Zone 3 garden area, far from the house, and realizing that the most productive part of your land is now the part you spend the least amount of time maintaining. But understanding how the system works is only part of the story. Because once these principles move from theory into real life, the results become far more remarkable than most people ever expect. Think back to the very first season this engine was turned on. The ground beneath the hutches was nothing more than Florida sugar sand, a white, sterile desert that could barely hold a drop of water. But within 90 days of operation, a biological alchemy took place. The sand began to darken, cooling as it transformed into a rich, moisture-retentive humus that smelled like an ancient forest. This isn't just a slight improvement, it is a total reclamation of the land. We have seen biomass explosions in kale and collards of 30%, fueled by that consistent drip of liquid gold. And then there is the protein yield. In a footprint no larger than a standard office chair, this engine can produce 50 pounds of high-quality meat a year, outperforming any traditional method. The 4-to-1 feed conversion ratio of the rabbit, combined with the zero-cost input of garden weeds and comfrey, means your cost of production is virtually zero while your total yield climbs. The water that cools the animals is never wasted. It becomes the carrier for the nutrients. You are no longer just growing food. You are growing the very foundation that food depends on. But the most striking change isn't found in the ledgers or the harvest baskets. It is found in the physical labor. The hours spent hauling heavy bags and turning compost piles have simply vanished. The system has moved from a state of constant demand to one of effortless supply. Yet, as powerful as these numbers are, the true impact of this shift is best understood through a single life. I remember a homesteader I spoke with back in the spring of 2024. He was standing in a garden that was literally starving to death, paralyzed by a 200% spike in fertilizer costs. He felt like he was losing a war against the heat and the economy. Every hour he spent working in the sun felt like a desperate attempt to plug holes in a bucket that would never be full. He was exhausted, not just physically but emotionally. He began to wonder if the dream of food security was actually a nightmare in disguise, a trap of endless work with diminishing returns. Then came the pivot. He stopped looking for external solutions and started looking for a biological engine. He realized the weeds he was fighting were actually the high-nitrogen fuel he needed. He built the vertical stack, introduced the worms, and waited. Within months, the anxiety that had defined his mornings was replaced by a quiet sense of awe as the system took over the work. While his neighbors were still scanning the empty shelves of local farm stores or complaining about prices, he was harvesting an abundance of greens and meat his family could barely finish. He would walk out in the 90-degree humidity and feel a cool draft from the misters, hearing the rhythmic crunch of the rabbits and the silent, invisible work of the worms beneath them. The engine had changed his landscape, but more importantly, it had changed his mindset. He was no longer a victim of a fragile supply chain. He had become the master of his own fertility. He realized that food autonomy isn't a destination you arrive at through harder work. It is a reality you build by designing systems that work harder than you ever possibly could alone. This realization is more than just a personal victory. It is a blueprint for the challenges we all face in 2026. Because today, the global supply of nitrogen has become our greatest vulnerability. For decades, we relied on the Haber-Bosch process, a massive, energy-intensive industrial cycle that turns natural gas into fertilizer. It is the invisible thread holding our food system together. But that thread is fraying. As energy costs soar and geopolitical tensions disrupt trade, the cost of commercial nitrogen has become the primary driver of the food inflation we see at the market. When you bring that production on-site, you aren't just saving money. You are decoupling your family's survival from a global machine that is increasingly unpredictable and fragile. In a world of climate uncertainty, where heat waves can wipe out a season's work in a single afternoon, The adaptive heat management of this engine ensures that your production never misses a beat. This isn't a survival strategy born of fear or a plan for the apocalypse. It is a practical, optimistic response to a changing world, a way to turn sugar sand into a resilient, thriving oasis. On-site fertility is economic security. It is the ability to look at a garden weed and see an asset rather than a nuisance. It is the transition from being a consumer to being a creator. But if we step back even further, we see that this entire journey, the rabbits, the worms, the vertical towers, was never actually about gardening. It was always about something much deeper. We have spent the last century being taught to think in lines. We take a resource, we use it, and we throw the waste away. It is a one-way street that eventually leads to a dead end of scarcity. But nature doesn't have a trash can. In a forest or a meadow, there is no such thing as waste. There is only energy that is waiting to find its next user. Everything is a resource for something else. This engine is an invitation to step back into that circle. It is a lesson in stewardship, teaching us that our role as humans is not to dominate the land, but to manage the energy that flows through it. Success isn't measured by how much we can extract from the soil, but by how well we can circulate life within it. It is about moving from management as a burden to system design as a craft. When we align our needs with the needs of the animals and the soil, we don't just find abundance. We find a sense of belonging. We realize we are part of a living, breathing, self-healing world. True empowerment comes when you stop fighting nature and start cooperating with her. You realize that the energy you need to thrive is already surrounding you. You just needed a better engine. The story ends where it began, but the lens through which we see the world has shifted. Look again at that rabbit in the corner of the garden, munching on a handful of wild, green mulberry leaves. In the soft glow of a summer evening, you can see the cycle in motion. The liquid gold is poured at the base of the mulberry tree, the same tree that provided the shade and the food for the rabbit. The tree grows stronger, its leaves more nutrient-dense, and its roots deeper. It pulls carbon from the air and water from the earth, preparing the next meal for the engine that feeds it. You hear the soft drip of the misters, the peaceful silence of a system that is in perfect balance. There is no smell of ammonia, no frantic labor, only the quiet hum of a biological refinery. The bag of synthetic fertilizer in the shed is still there, becoming a relic of a time when we didn't know better. It is a heavy weight that we no longer have any reason to carry. You stand in a zone 3 that was once neglected and dry, now looking at a harvest that is both a gift from the past and a promise for the future. You have built more than a hutch, you have built a home. Food freedom isn't about working harder, it's about building a better engine. And once you see the beauty of the gear, you realize that the abundance you were seeking was always within your reach. If this story changed the way you see the land around you, let us know in the comments below. And if you would like to learn more practical ways to build resilience, abundance, and food freedom, subscribe to Perma to Plate and join us on the journey.